So good evening, everybody. It is such an incredible joy to be back here at the Torch Center 2.0, finally back in our beautiful classroom at the Torch Center after Hurricane Harvey, which took place about 99 days ago and devastated our city and many, many different parts of our neighborhood, and including our Torch Center. And we're finally back. And I want to again thank our previous temporary hosts who took us in when we were homeless. Rabbi Yacobian and Congregation Torah Chesed, who took us in and really did amazing kindness with us in allowing us to use their space for Mussar Mondays every week. But now we're back home. We're back in our Torch Center, and it's so exciting to be here with all of you to get back onto our normal routine, and to all of our friends online. Thank you so much for joining us. So the topic tonight is small steps, big, huge results. Okay? Huge results. Now, you have to understand that the world around us is sensational. Everything is about sensation. It's the biggest, the fastest, the coolest, everything is it has to be grand. But what our sages teach us time and again, through teachings of the Mishnah, through the Talmud, is that small steps is what counts. It's the small steps that count. When you are taking any challenge, when you're trying to accomplish any significant measure of accomplishment, you must start with small steps in order for it to be attainable. All right? So, and we've discussed this so many times throughout our Mussar Mondays, is that nobody changes overnight. These things don't happen. It's interesting that even no building is built in a day. You have to put one stone on another stone, on another stone, on another stone. Eventually, you'll build 100 stories. But it doesn't happen in one day. Something which is built to last takes time. And it takes small steps for it to be lasting. Okay, so one of the things that we've learned to keep us away from rebellion is small steps. The Yetzer Hara has a special way. They say about traffic tickets, right? So for those who drive fast, know that the police aren't looking to stop people who are speeding 2 miles over the speed limit. Unless you're in a school zone, you deserve it. But if you're not in a school zone, right, generally speaking, that's not who they're looking for. They're looking for the big fish. They're looking for the people who are going 10, 20, 30 miles over the speed limit. The Yetzer Hara is very, very, very much the same. He's not looking for someone who's doing small things. He's looking for someone who's doing big things. Right? Who's doing the big things? We talk about world peace. We talk about changing the universe. Right? That doesn't happen with big steps. It's very small steps that have a lasting impact. Okay? We're going to talk a lot about this tonight. So now it's very, very interesting that in last week's Parsha, we had Jacob. We know he was traveling, and he reaches a place called Mount Moriah. And when he arrives at the place, he realizes this is a holy place. Now, where was this place? This was where he had the binding of Isaac, where his father had the binding of Isaac, where his grandfather brought his father as an offering, until God said, no, don't. And at that same place, that's where Jacob arrives. And it says that he when we discussed this, he put those 12 stones by his head. And then the 12 stones became one stone. And we see that in the verses, because at the beginning, when he went to sleep, it says, and the stones that he placed by his head. And when he wakes up, it says, and he moved the stone which he placed by... What happened? Sorry, it went from stones to stone. Now, Jacob was no stoner, right? Right? So how did this happen? That these stones became a stone. Our sages tell us that they converged into one. They became one. And we spoke about this in great lengths in other videos about the importance of understanding that there's a spiritual world around the physical world that we're living. And the more spiritual we are, the more we infuse the physical around us with spirituality. So what happens is that Jacob, in that sleep that he has, talks about that he had a dream. And in the dream, there's a ladder from his head going up into the heavens. And the question that's always asked is, why specifically a ladder? Why is there a ladder? And there are angels going up and down and up and down. Our sages tell us because this is telling us a message. That just like Jacob, who was a man of growth, and Isaac, who was a man of growth, and Abraham, who was a man of growth, it's symbolized in that ladder. To grow effectively, you need to take one step at a time. You don't run up a ladder. You take slow steps carefully. You make sure that the rung is stable. You take a step. You check the next rung, it's stable, it's strong, you take the next step, and so on and so forth. Just as the ladder represents Jacob's dream, so too our spirituality, our growth to reach the heavens, on the highest levels of our spiritual growth, it needs to be step by step. We need to have one small step after another small step. Now, there's a very, very interesting idea that our sages tell us about the temple. Now, the temple had a ramp. Why did it have a ramp? Well, the ramp was, they would leave it, it was the kevesh, it was a ramp that would lead all the way up to the altar. And they'd walk up the animals up there, right? Now again, why do they need a ramp? Why couldn't they have another form of elevation? It's not the only one. Ramp is not the only one. You can have steps. You can have other ways. But specifically a ramp. So there are many reasons. The first reason is because on a ramp you can't stagnate. On steps you can stagnate. Right? On steps you can stagnate. You're going on your vacation, right? You take a ball and you secure it on the step, on the third step. It's secured. You leave your house, you close the door, you come back after a week, 2 weeks from your cruise. Where's that ball? Exactly where you left it. When you have a ramp and you put the ball on the ramp, what's going to happen? It's going to roll down. If you don't kick it up, it's going down. Our sages tell us that the ramp signifies that a person needs to be in a constant motion of growth. If you're not going up, you're going down. You can't stagnate in your spiritual growth. But there's another incredible reason. Because when you have a staircase which is pre-engineered to be 6.5 inches between steps. I don't know, any engineers here in the house? Right? I think it's 6.5 inches between each step. So whether you're a little child, whether you're an old man, whether you're a teenager who can do 2 or 3 steps at a time, it doesn't make a difference. The step stays the same for everyone. No matter if you're capable or incapable. Right? My little son now is 4 years old. Right? He can take a step of 6.5 inches. But when he was 2 years old, he couldn't. They can't pick up their foot that high. So you're forcing him to take a step he's not ready for yet. But that's the reality of a world of pre-engineered steps, but not in spiritual growth. In spiritual growth, we see the concept of a ramp, and that is that everybody takes their own size step. Yes, you have to be in an upward motion, but you have to take your own size step. It's not pre-engineered. You get on that ramp and you take the step that's right for you. No one's going to tell you, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. You have to know if you're ready for it. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Figuring out your next small step in your growth. We don't stagnate. We either elevate ourselves or we descend. We either go up or go down. There's no standing in between. There's no resting. Right? So, it's an interesting idea that we have also the Saphira, the counting of the Omer that we do from Pesach to Shavuot. We count the 49 days that lead up to Shavuot. And it's also a day, every day we take one step. Right? Now, here's the biggest challenge people have. The challenge people have with this one-step process is that people think it doesn't mean anything. When am I going to grow if I don't do something drastic? I need to do something drastic. But that's a mistake. It's a mistake to think that we need to do something drastic. The small steps have the longest impact, the greatest impact. Okay? So, we have like this. There's so much to talk about. It's we have to find it says in the Torah, Im b'chukotai telechu. If you go in my ways, the ways of Hashem's laws, the laws of the Torah. And again, the commentaries ask, what type of term is this? And you shall walk. If you shall walk in my ways. If you shall follow in my ways makes sense. If you shall observe my ways, if you shall walk. Because the walking process is one step and another step and another step and another step. Right? It's not running. It's a step-by-step process. We know, I was jogging with my children. Right? So once in a while we jog in the neighborhood at night. I don't like to jog during the day. I don't want people to be jealous. No, I'm just kidding. I'm jogging with my children, and my son says, Abba, I can run a lot faster than you. I said, I'm sure you can. Right? I'm sure you can run a lot faster than me. But it's not how fast you can run. It's how long you can run. Right? And that's the challenge that the world, I think today, we're very into instant gratification where everything has to be, I'll give it energy for 5 minutes and I'm done. No. There's something about duration. There's something about how long can you continue that routine. Right? And that has a greater impact than just, run it out, and now you're so tired you can't move. Right? It's about the long haul throughout our entire 120 years that we're on this earth. How are we going to ensure that we are in a constant, steady growth process? Okay? So that the Torah tells you, Im b'chukotai telechu. You have to take it as if you're walking. Right? Imagine you have to walk 3 miles. You're going to run in the 3 miles? Well, some people are capable of running it. Right? For them, that's their walking. But generally speaking, we see you make that slow progress. You walk step after step after step after step. You get there. Right? With a little patience, you'll get there. You run, you can have injuries. You run, you can hurt a limb. You can fall. There are things. There's dangers that come with it. Spiritually, though, we can't afford those dangers. Because when you fall in your spiritual growth, you fall a lot harder than when you fall on the street. So yeah, you could also fall when you're walking, but it's less likely. Right? We want to ensure that the steps we take are secure ones, and that in our growth. So if you take any midah, any trait we spoke about, you're going to open up here. We spoke about order. We spoke about kindness. We spoke about many anger, patience. How do you work on these traits? So many people say, okay, I'm so inspired. I went to Mussar Mondays last week, and the rabbi spoke about not getting angry, and that's it. I decided I'm never going to be angry again, right?
And they're angry about it.
And you're angry, right? Right? That doesn't work. But if you take small steps, you know what? I'm not going to react so hastily. I'm not going to be so quick to relax, take it easy, small steps, overcoming the way you react. The small steps is how we grow.
Rabbi, what happens when you take these small steps, you get up to here and you stop, and then you start doing this?
Okay, so we'll talk about that. A person, here's the thing, is if a person's not maintaining their growth, they're going to descend. Right? And that's the problem. The problem is that we all get inspired, right? You go to a TED Talks or you go to a Torch class and you get inspired, right? And you're like, oh wow, this is so great, right? And then you get home and you get back to your regular routine, and it's it's interesting. I actually heard this question being asked by a college student just this weekend. There was a Shabbaton here in Houston by the incredible group of UT students with Rabbi Trepp, the chief rabbi of Austin and the surrounding areas. He came with a group of 35 students, and they were in Houston, and I had the great fortune to speak to them multiple times over the weekend. But one of the speeches was not me. It was a local businessman, Shomer Shabbos businessman, and they asked him, sometimes we grow and sometimes we dip a little. We lose that inspiration, and So he said a very interesting idea. I want to repeat it here. And that is that sometimes that inspiration, you need to take ownership of it. There's only that much that the inspiration you get from others can last. But then you have that opportunity to make it your own. So someone inspires you about keeping kosher. So now it's the inspiration you have till that wears off from the other person. But now you have a chance to make it your own. Right? And that's the problem. Sometimes we don't... it makes me excited to be in the class. It makes me excited to go to the lecture because it feels good. I feel so inspired. But I never make it my own. We have to make it our own. Yes, so we could dip.
How many times can you dip?
Well, again, we'll dip as many times as we don't take ownership of it. Right? If we're just riding the wave, so eventually the wave dies down. We have to make it our own. And that's the opportunity we get. When we get inspired, we have to plan how are we going to maintain this to make it our own. All right? It's an interesting thing that I'll tell you an amazing story. I'm not going to give any names about this because I don't know the other party, and I don't want to say anything without getting. But I heard this from the actual person this happened to. There's an amazing organization called Partners in Torah, and Partners in Torah partners up people to learn together, right? So over the phone or in person. And we are actually going to start a Partners in Torah here in this center on Wednesday night, starting in January. So I look forward to seeing you all here January 3rd. On Wednesday, 2018, we were going to start a Partners in Torah, and you'll be paired up with a partner, and you'll learn together here every Wednesday night with a study partner, and it's going to be fantastic. It's just going to have so much fun. So here's a story between two partners that were learning together, and they were learning together for a little while, and one of them was religious, and the other one wasn't yet religious. And they were learning. They were in their journey. And, they discussed that in a couple of weeks is Passover. And, it gets very hectic in a typical Jewish home right before Pesach with all the cleaning and with all the cooking and just getting everything ready. So, we'll take a break and we'll continue learning after Pesach. So the partner said, no problem, just tell me a little bit about this holiday. So, we don't eat bread, and we don't eat this and that. Okay, so you just went through some of the rules and instructions of the observance of Pesach and its meaning and why we have it. Okay. After Pesach, they get back on the phone, and they're back to regular schedule. And the student partner says to the mentor partner, you are going to be so proud of me. You're going to be so proud of me. The woman says, my children, it was the middle of Passover, and my children were so hungry. So we went into McDonald's, and we got them their cheeseburger. And I will tell you, I scratched off every last piece of their bread from their cheeseburger. Right? Now, so we're laughing. It's not funny, right? Because it's an amazing step.
Important to that person.
It's an amazing step. I'm telling you that God was smiling with so much love and with so much joy that here, my children, for whatever they do know, are taking an enormous step. Something which is so meaningful, something which is so great. This is what they know. So this is what they're observing. Now, okay, it may be sad that this is it they knew. But I think it's beautiful that they're taking their step. And we can't laugh about it. It's such an enormous thing. Well, Rabbi, I feel like a hypocrite. I shouldn't be. I hear this all the time. People telling me, I can't be a member in an Orthodox synagogue because I'm not really Orthodox. Right? Well, I don't know that every person who's in any synagogue is at that level, per se, right? I don't know. Is there anybody in this world who's a Reformed Jew, who's an Orthodox Jew, who's a conservative Jew? I told you, I don't believe in any of these labels. What are we? We're Jews. And as Jews, we have one responsibility: to be growing, not to stagnate. Not to put labels on our shoulders saying, I'm a member here, I've got it. Right? I pay my dues here, I'm good. No, we're growing. And no matter where we are, whether we're a member in Reform, Conservative, or Orthodox, it's irrelevant. We need to always be in a pattern of growth. We're anti-stagnation. That's what's prohibited in our religion. No stagnation. Right? We need to always be growing. Right? And a person needs to ask themselves, if where they're at, are they being challenged to grow? And if they're not being challenged to grow, maybe it's time for change. But we need to not be, okay, just be comfortable, just relax, take it easy. No. We're here to grow. We're here to change. We're here to become different people, to become better people. You have a question here. You're a little uncomfortable with this. You.
Well, my question to you is, though, if you, in fact, walk into some synagogues, all right, no matter, and you don't conform to what you think you need to conform to, sometimes you do not get accepted inside that synagogue or that congregation. I've been there. I know it.
Right. In some places that's true. Some places, look, you have that with schools.
You're going
look,
to say I'm learning.
Right, but you have that with every institution. You have that in schools too, right? You have it in school. Well, you're not conforming to the rules of the school. Get out, right? So, that's why Torch is not a synagogue. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome to come learn Torah.
We'll wait till you open your synagogue.
You'll wait. Okay. There we go. We got a deal. So,
Hang on.
yeah.
Hang on.
Take small steps, exactly. It's not all or nothing. You have to understand that Judaism is not all or nothing. It's the biggest mistake people make about Judaism is they think that if I don't do it all, then God doesn't want... You know what? There's a Mishnah that tells this to us. The Mishnah tells us, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor. Aval iyata ben chorin lehibata mimena. Your job is not to finish, to accomplish everything, to get to the end zone. That's not your job. But your job is to never stop trying to get to the end zone. Right? We're not allowed to say, you know what, I've given it my effort, I'm done. Well, that's a dead person. A dead person doesn't try anymore. A dead person doesn't have ups and downs. You look at those EKG machines, right? The heart monitor, right? You see going up and down, up and down, up and down. What does it do to go up and down like that? Let it just go straight. Right? Straight, you're dead. Right? Healthy human beings have ups and downs, have struggles. We take a step. We're not always able to maintain that step. We fall a little bit back. We take another step. Right? A healthy human being has ups and downs, yes.
The one thing that has always puzzled me is just listening and stuff, people saying that they're a bad Jew because they're not ascertaining somebody else's preconceived idea of who they should be. And it's always puzzled me.
Well, so look, the Torah gives us the guidelines of how we should live and observe our lives, right? It's one of those things that we need to understand this, zoom out a little bit, zoom the lens out and take a big picture at the Torah and the mitzvahs and the world that God put us into. And imagine, the example that I've come up with is, imagine you buy a new car. You buy a luxury sedan. All right? So you pull out of your BMW dealership, right, with your new car. When is the first time you're going to look at your manual?
When you have a problem.
No. The first time you buy gas. Right?
That's true.
The
That's
first time you buy gas,
Yeah.
right? Because, till now you were driving a Corolla, a Camry, a simple car. You put in the cheapest octane fuel. Right? But now it's the ultimate driving machine. So you open it up, right? And you look, what type of octane? So you look and it says, wow, the highest, oh my goodness, 93 and whatever the highest, 95 octane. So then it's no problem. But then when you look at the price, you're like, what? Who does Mr. BMW think he is to tell me to spend 80 cents more per gallon? Who does he think he is? Well, you know what? You don't have to listen to him. You don't have to listen to Mr. BMW. But if you want to experience the ultimate driving experience, this is what we recommend. Who are you to recommend it? Well, we created this engine. We're telling you, if you want it to drive, you need to put premium. And it's going to cost you a little bit more. People ask, what do you mean? I could buy kosher chicken, non-kosher chicken, it's a $3 differential. Guess what? God says you're the ultimate pleasure machine. Right? You have to put premium. You don't want to put premium? Don't put premium. God is telling you, I'm the creator. I know what's best. Right? There's kosher food. Kosher food. Yeah, there is going to be a differential. It's funny that people have that challenge when it comes to religious reasons. People don't have that challenge when it comes to luxuries and materialism. Right? But people don't ask, what? All it is now it becomes a brand, a Gucci, and now it's triple the price? What? Well, if you want the better things, you're going to have to pay for it. Right? God tells you the same thing. God says, listen, I'm telling you what's best for you. Right? What do you mean? You're telling me not to work on Shabbos? God says, listen, zoom out and look at the perfect world that God created through the Torah. It's perfect. Now again, God gave us as a gift. The first thing God gave us is free will. And you can choose to live life as you wish. Every person, every human being can choose to go this way, to go that way, to go the other way, any way they want. But God says, listen, owner's manual recommends you follow these rules. Right? So, yeah, there are rules. There are guidelines. Right? Are there people who choose to follow it? Absolutely. Are there people who choose not to follow it? Absolutely. But that's every individual. And nobody knows where the other person is coming from. Right? Everybody has a different starting point and everybody has a different finish line. Right? Yes.
I agree completely with that, but I was more looking at it from like a self-loathing way, that they weren't living up to other people, their peers' expectations of them, not what the Torah demands of us.
Right.
But more of...
Okay, so that's each to their own situation. They have, we have these struggles constantly. Where your mother wants you to be a doctor. Oh, Jewish boy, right? You got to be a doctor. And if you're not a doctor, you'll be a lawyer. And if you're not a lawyer, you'll be an accountant. And if all else fails, you become a rabbi. Nebuch, my son became a rabbi. But it's people do set certain things as their barometer of measuring success. But that shouldn't be the way you judge for yourself. Right? I want to share with you a parable that my grandfather talks about in his book. All right? It's written right here on page 190 in his second volume of Ali Shur. And just an amazing story. During the Yom Kippur War, just after the Yom Kippur War, they asked my grandfather to fly to... I'll read it to you. Want me to read it to you inside? I'll read it to you inside. Okay, it's 5 lines. It's 8 lines. Achar melchemet Yom Kippurim tasti l'Mitzrayim. After the Yom Kippur War, my grandfather writes that he flew to Egypt. Right? He was asked by the army, by the IDF, to fly there and to speak to the officers and to the commanders on the ground and the soldiers, and to give them inspiration. It's very interesting that when my grandfather got there, I'm going to tell you what happened on the way in a second. I'll continue the story. But when he got there, I just found this out last week in a family conversation we were having, and one of my relatives shared the story that they gave him a nice room, and wherever they set up for him. And he said, "Where are the soldiers staying?" They said, "Oh, they're sleeping in little cots out in the tents." He says, "I'm going to go sleep with the soldiers," right? And that's where he went. He went to sleep with the soldiers. I think that maybe they were sleeping on the floor, and he slept with them there. When the plane that my grandfather was traveling on, which is an army plane, when it got to the vicinity of Egypt, I saw that the plane was flying very, very low. Mamash kama metrim mi'al hakarka. A few meters over the ground. That's it. The plane was flying really, really low. I thought maybe there was something wrong with the engines. And I asked, what's going on with the plane? Amruli ki achshav anu betchum haradar mitzri. Now we're in the. They explained to him that now he's in the range of the Egyptian radars. And it's not really worthwhile for it to detect a Jewish plane. Therefore, he's flying beneath the radar. Because the radar only detects a plane that is flying higher than it. But if you fly beneath the altitude of the radar itself, it doesn't detect you. And this is the example. Also to our power of rebellion, yesh radar, there's a radar. And that rebellion only detects steps that are way above its height. But with small little deeds, which are beneath the height of that rebellion state, he doesn't notice. Okay? It's an unbelievable parable. When we try to fly too high, I'm never going to speak Lashon Hara again. I'm never going to get angry. Right? I'm going to dedicate 14 hours a day to kindness. I'm going to go, right? I'm going to spend the rest of my life at the homeless shelter giving out food. When people try to take too high of a step, too big of a step, the rebellion radar shoots them down. Now we also know that rebellion radar is the Yetzer Hara, right? The Yetzer Hara sees this guy is flying too high. We're going to shoot him down. We'll cut him down to size. That's the danger we face, right? So, what's the question that's always asked? And you asked this earlier. Okay, so I'm going to take something small upon myself, right? I'm going to be ground level, very low. And then the next thing I accept of myself is going to be also small, and also small, and also small, also small. Eventually, it'll be above the radar. Right? And then I'm going to be in a problem. What's the answer?
The radar keeps getting higher.
Is because before you take on the next step, you have to make sure that this isn't a step anymore. This becomes part of the ground. This becomes part of who you are. It's not a step on a step. It's a new step on the ground. And then that step becomes part of the ground. Then you put a new step on top of that. So the whole, it's like it says with regarding to Abraham, when Abraham purchased the land of Ephron, it says then the land was elevated. Right? The whole land, what do you mean the land was elevated? Well, Abraham was elevated. So all of his possessions became elevated. Right? Suddenly the land grows taller. Gets higher and higher. So the radar goes higher and higher. And you keep growing and keep growing and keep growing. The Chafetz Chaim did not become the Chafetz Chaim overnight. And by the way, there's a fantastic book over there in our magnificent Levitt family library about the Chafetz Chaim. You can come here any day and drink a delicious coffee and sit here in these comfortable chairs at the center. You won't find this anywhere else, even in public library. Right? You won't find comfortable chairs like you have here at the Torch Center. You can come here anytime, drink your coffee, and enjoy reading a book. And you can read about the Chafetz Chaim, you can read about the Vilna Gaon, other great sages, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, and all these other magnificent books that we have here. But now that we're done with our shameless plug, right? So we need to make sure that we take one step at a time. The Chafetz Chaim did not become the Chafetz Chaim overnight. Rabbi Feinstein didn't become Rabbi Feinstein overnight. The Vilna Gaon didn't become the Vilna Gaon overnight. Yes, they were all gifted. Yes, they were all given so much potential. Built in. It's not a freebie. Nobody gets a freebie. They had a lot of challenges they needed to overcome to get to where they are, to get to where they were. Right? Just the greater one is, the greater the challenges they face. So yeah, he was born with great abilities. They say that the Chafetz Chaim, right? What do we know about the Chafetz Chaim? We know about the Chafetz Chaim that he had the holy speech, right? He didn't speak slanderously about other people. He was so careful about every word that came out of his mouth. So you'd think the Chafetz Chaim probably never talked. Right?
It's like my grandma.
Right? Like he never talked. It's not true. It's not true. They say the Chafetz Chaim was a very talkative person. But he was so careful. And what do you think? He never slipped? I guarantee you it's only because he slipped that he became even more. Right? Now, there was those out there, please don't, but there are those out there who'd stone me to death. How can you say such a thing? But I'm telling you, that's the reality of how we are as human beings. Right? We need to take small steps, and that's what makes us take the big leaps. It doesn't go by just, big steps, big leaps, big jumps. It doesn't work. It's not real. It doesn't last. You fall. And the bigger those leaps, the bigger the rebellion later. From within. We can't handle it. Small steps. Our sages tell us that every mitzvah that one performs creates an angel. it builds a momentum is the idea. Right? You get started with something small, and another small, and another small. You ask these people who, motivational speakers, they'll tell you, right, that in order to get rid of a bad habit is just get started. The problem is you think about this mountain. You're standing in front of a mountain. Like, I'm never going to get to the top. Let's just go home. Right? Let's just go home. What's the solution? Don't think about getting to the top. Let's just start. Just start. One step builds on another step that builds on another step. You can think of any amazing accomplishment. The automobile. You kidding? It's never going to drive, really. No, let's make one accomplishment. It's like everything. You must take one step that will lead to the next step. It doesn't, it didn't happen in a day. Aviation didn't happen in a day. Success of any human being didn't happen in a day. Right? Whether they're athletes or whether they're great thinkers, great scholars, righteous people, sages, it took time, it took challenges, it took trials and tribulations that got them to where they took. Right? But it doesn't. There's no quick fix to bad traits. There's no quick perfection to good traits. Each one is a process. It takes time. All right? A healthy way to grow is step by step. Don't try to jump. In Proverbs 19:3, it says the following. It says, "Iveles Adam tesalef darko vel Hashem yizaf liba." It is the foolishness of man who tries to jump and falls, and then he blames it on God. I don't think we have it here. We should get it. But the Gaon of Vilna says, it is the foolishness of man who thinks that you can jump because you're doing a good thing. Oh, I'm growing spiritually. It's such a great thing. I can just jump. And then they fall, and they fall hard. And then he cries. He says, Hashem, why did you do this to me? You didn't. You jumped. You shouldn't have jumped. Right? Don't blame the Almighty. Right? That's the challenge that we face. This is the real deal here. Bottom line. It's so insignificant, Rabbi. I want to do something meaningful. Right? So start keeping Shabbat. You're telling me to do something small, but that's not significant. It's never going to get me there. Oh, yes, it will. I say, I've had people ask me this, Rabbi, I'm ready to begin my journey to keep Shabbat. I can't do the whole thing yet. What would you recommend? One thing. I say designate one light switch that you will not turn on or off. One light switch. Put a piece of tape on it. Write on it, on the piece of tape, Shabbos. Designate one light switch. One light switch. It stays on or it stays off the whole Shabbos. Rabbi, really? That's nothing. Come on, anybody can do that. Start there. It's so insignificant. It's mockable. That's perfect. That is the right step. It's when you say, whoa, and that's big. Right? That's when that's when you're going to fall right off that cliff. When it's small and insignificant, that's when it's so low, it's so below the radar. Yitzhara says, one light switch, no big deal. I'll deal with the bigger, with the people who are trying to speed faster than 2 miles an hour. All right, you got it. So it really has to be small, consistent, insignificant steps, seemingly insignificant. Buildings are built brick by brick, not instant building techniques. There's no such thing. I was always wondering, is it possible to do it like in 24 hours, build a building? Right? 24 hours, just like put it up. Doesn't work. Gotta let it dry. You have to, right? That's a lot. The whole process. Especially if you want it to last. I mean, if you want it to all fall down, you can do that. Right? So there's also another important aspect when we talk about small steps, is that there's always a danger of how we take those small steps. And many people think that the way to do it is, by stepping on other people. The rule is that you have to grow by looking up to the Almighty, not by looking down at others. Right? Look up to the Almighty. Don't step and look down at others. Right? We have to recognize that it's not about how big we are relative to other people. It's how big we are relative to what the Almighty expects from us. So I'll give you an example. The Almighty gives you a gift, a golden voice, right? And God expects that you use it. And you use it for good purposes, right? So you're going to say, listen, I'm much better than everybody else. Well, guess what? You don't have the same voice as everybody else. You have to use it. You have a talent. You're a great author, a great writer. Right? Like, nobody writes. I mean, who's writing? It's only the politicians are writing books to sell. I don't need to write. What do you mean? Why did God give you that gift? Why did God give you that gift? He gave it to you so that you use it. So don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to what the Almighty expects of you. That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Right? He expects me to be a lot different than perhaps I am. Okay, so how am I going to get there? Set out a plan. You've got to set out a plan. Tachbolo ta'aseh lecha. Make for yourself a plan. How are you going to get there? No one just one day gets to observance of Shabbat. No one in one day. No one in one day gets to to never speaking lashon hara, or to putting tefillin on every day, or to keep kosher. It doesn't happen in one day. I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten phone calls from people telling me, Rabbi, I tried the kosher thing, but it's really difficult. What did you think? It was going to be easy?
If it was
of course.
easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly. It's difficult, yeah. The problem is, but I failed. I tried and I couldn't keep it. That's part of your growth. We don't give up. On the contrary, Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. It says that the righteous fall 7 times. Think of yourself as a child. Think of yourself as a child. A little child takes their first step. What happens? They fall. They take another 2 steps, they fall. I'm in the process now of teaching my son how to ride a bicycle, 2-wheel bicycle, without training wheels. Right? Yeah, they get shaky. Guess what? That's part of the process of growth. So you could say, you know what? I'm not interested in the fall. I'm not interested in falling. So you'll stay never walking. You'll stay never riding a bicycle. You'll never drive a car either, because there are accidents out there. So you're saying it's part of our nature is growth, change. That's part of who we are. We don't run away from those things.
I have
Yes.
Because what you're saying is reminding me of something I think I'd like to share with everybody. It's a wonderful book called The Willpower Instinct. And it's by Kelly McGonigal.
Mm-hmm.
You can get her talks. She's done some
So I'm on over here, and people won't be able to hear you. So we'll do it after class.
Okay.
We'll just give the thing. Okay. Thank you. So we say like this. So that's Proverbs 19:3. Don't blame God on your fall. Right? Don't jump, and you won't fall. Take small steps, small meaningful steps. Right? I have many friends I know who've taken significant steps in their lives. None of them did it by jumping. None of them did it by jumping. You take one step and another step and another step and another step, methodically, slowly. You don't jump. Don't jump. Right? And you know what? You'll always have things like, I can't believe it. I didn't even know about that. And what should I do? And you get, don't worry, relax, take it easy. Right? It's part of our growth. Yes.
Well, it's like AA. There's 13 steps you must go through in order.
12 steps.
The 13th one you're supposed to
No, 12 steps to sobriety. And if you don't follow, you might never get there.
That's right. You got to take one step after another. Exactly. It says, Yodea Tzaddik.
13 steps.
He's talking about the 13 principles of faith. He's right. Right.
Something like that. Something like that.
Yeah. So we have Yodea Tzaddik Nefesh Behemto. It says that a righteous person knows the needs of his animal. Our sages say it's not only his animal, it's himself, the animal in himself, right? We have to know ourselves. We have to know our own challenges and take the necessary steps to help us grow spiritually, right? If we can just summarize just for a moment what we've been saying till now, it's that, number one, we need to be in a constant mode of growth, right? There's no Reform Jew, there's no Orthodox Jew, there's no conservative Jew, there's no Reconstructionist Jew, there's no such thing. It's labels, it's membership, it's selling, that's a sales pitch of a synagogue. What we really are is that every Jew needs to be a growing Jew, not a stagnant Jew. It doesn't make a difference where you associate. Am I growing? And that's what the question that we need to ask ourselves. Am I growing? Right? It's not enough to put the tag, I'm a member, and that's it. Am I changing? Am I becoming a better person? It's interesting that my grandfather would always quote from the old sages of the Mussar masters back in Europe. They would always say, Mussar is not about being bigger, it's about change. It's not about being better, it's about change. And that's the challenge. The challenge is, how much are we ready to change? To take that small step of change. Right? To change habits. It takes a while. You don't just drop these things. Anyone who goes on a diet, I can tell you, right? You don't do it in a day. You don't do it in a day. Right? You change certain habits of what I eat, what I don't eat, what I drink, what I don't drink. Do I go up the elevator? Do I go up the steps? Right? All of these things are decisions, but it's one at a time. You can't change everything overnight. You're not going to drop 30 pounds in a day. If you do, you'd be very wealthy. Right? You'd probably be dead too, right? But exercise. Exercise is a perfect example of how we need to work spiritually. I went to the gym Saturday night after Shabbos. I had a friend here from Austin, and he took me to go to the gym. He was going to show me certain techniques and certain things. Now, I don't do weights. I've never done weights. I'm not into bodybuilding and all that. So he's pushing 270 pounds, right? And I'm starting at 10, right? You know why? You're going to do too much, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to do too much, you're going to hurt yourself. You have to start small. 10 pounds, it's nothing. I can do that with my pinky, right? Yeah. You know what? You have to start at something which is attainable. Something which is, so to speak, small and insignificant. So small that it's almost laughable. Well, really, to put a piece of tape on the light switch? That's nothing. That's exactly the right thing to do. When you feel it's so insignificant, that's when you know it's the right step for you. What do you say? What do you say, Ed?
I agree.
You agree, huh? So.
Didn't you put the tape on your light switch yet? No. I didn't think so.
Okay. So I'll tell you, there are people who are born on a higher level. There's a story that's told about the previous Hasidic master of the Ger Hasidim. The Hasidic dynasty called Ger or Gur. And the previous Rebbe of Gur took over when he was 18 years old. He's very young. 18 years old, he became the leader of this dynasty. It's one of the bigger ones in Israel, one of the biggest Hasidic dynasties in Israel. So the followers of his father, before his father passed away, came to him and they said, you're a little kid, it's like how's it possible that you can fill up the shoes? So he says there were once hikers that were climbing up a mountain. Climbing was taking them years and years and years to get up to the top of the mountain. And then when they get to the top of the mountain, they're absolutely flabbergasted. They see a little baby there. They're like, we're traveling for years and this baby got here already? So what does the baby say? I was born up here. Right? There's some people who are born at a higher level. There's some people who are born at a higher level. Right? So yes.
You mean spiritually?
Spiritually as well, absolutely. There are people who are born on a spiritual level. And it doesn't mean that they're better. On the contrary, it's much more difficult for them to grow. Right? Someone who grows up with a brilliant mind and understands all of the intricacies of halacha and the Torah, right? For them, right, they were born on sort of on the top of that mountain. They don't have the struggles that you and I have of learning through and understanding each verse and spending the time to sometimes breaking our teeth to read through the Talmud and the commentaries. For them, it's easy. So what's their spiritual growth?
To become rabbi.
Well, but a rabbi is just a title again. We're not into the titles. It's about growth.
So they didn't forget the Torah when they were born.
No, they learned it again. So the idea is like this. We got to get that ball rolling. And the only way to do it properly in our spiritual growth is with small steps. We must take small steps in our spiritual growth. But we have to take a step. Right? We must take a step. And it's so critical that we figure out and map it out for ourselves. What do I want to accomplish in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? And now start today. How am I going to get there? And if you start today, you have 365 days in the coming year. And then another 365 days. That's a lot of time. You can change a whole lot in 365 days. You can be a totally different person, but only with small steps. So we'll see, maybe next week we'll continue this topic. But I really, really enjoyed being back here with all of you here at the Torah Center. Don't forget when you get home to like and share these videos. And for those of you online now, please do so we can get Torah out there to the masses online. And we can grow the word of Torah out in the world. You're welcome to join us here every single Monday night at 7:30 p.m. where we delve into these topics in Mussar and character development. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a lovely evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for watching.